Every year, millions of tons of agricultural waste is burnt in India. The result is a public health crisis with toxic air blanketing our cities. But what if we have been looking at this the wrong way? What if that agricultural residue is actually a raw material? That's what today's guest thought. Sumeet Popli is someone who has spent years in the construction industry and is now the founder of Biome Build, a company that takes this agricultural residue and turns it into a high performance alternative to plywood. In doing this, he tackles three problems: the stubble burning, the deforestation crisis in India, and the larger carbon footprint of the built environment. And so, in this episode, we dive into what it takes to start a climate tech startup, what matters in such a startup, distribution or innovation, and how you can think about building a startup like this of your own. Here's my conversation with Sumeet Popli. So, Sumit, take us into what you say to people you meet for the first time and how you describe Biome Build to them.
The easiest way to explain what Biome Build does is it builds an alternative to timber, but using almost similar feedstock that's available in nature in abundance, but in the form of agricultural waste. So we essentially make a plywood sort of a material. I'm using plywood as a common term and not as a proper noun, as a general term for engineered wood that comes around in the market, and that's the most easily recognizable word. So we make a plywood alternative from crop residue, which the farmers burn across the world. That's the simplest way of explaining.
Yeah, and why that material specifically? What was it about that material that spoke to you?
There are a couple of things. Obviously, there's been a lot of research. I mean, because there's been so much deforestation that's happened over the last 200 odd years, and while urbanizing, while changing land use, by also the demand for timber has gone up, and deforestation has such a big impact on climate change right now. Uh, uh, I wanted to work on wood. I wanted to work when I decided to do something. I wanted to look at how there can be an alternative to wood, because when there is deforestation, it's not just the tree cover that is being lost. It's not just the carbon sinks that are lost. It's not just a carbon sequestration potential or sequestered carbon is released into the atmosphere. It also disturbs our ecosystems. It also disturbs habitat. It also leads to biodiversity loss. It also leads to flooding getting more disturbed and floods getting out of control. It also disturbs rainfall patterns. So they're all, I mean, trees are why we are alive. I mean, they're one of the rarest um, items or rarest products available in the universe. They are more finite than fossil fuels. They're more finite than any precious metal. But they are being harvested at the speed of light. And that is important. And I wanted to work on something on wood and how do we bring a change into the system to look at products which could find a space as an alternative to wood. Now, when you look at agricultural waste, obviously that was the initial theory that I wanted to work with, that I started doing. By doing research on what these products could be and where these could originate, there is a lot of research that has been done on this subject for the last 20, 30 years all over the world. It did turn out that agricultural waste has almost an identical biochemistry, which is, I mean, it's all biomass at the end of the day. So it's all lignocellulosic fibers at the end of the day. It is just the way it is. It is used, just the way it is configured, just the way it is treated, just the way it is handled. That changes when you switch from lignocellulosic fiber derived from timber or trees, or lignocellulose fiber, which is derived from agricultural waste. The handling changes by some degree, but eventually, the building blocks are of anything in nature. Anything that grows literally as a plant, as a flora, sort of a thing. It's all lignocellulose fibers. So any plant that grows, it's growing. It's like this. I mean, whether you're a human from here or any other place, all all animals, they're made of muscle and bone, right? All mammals are made of muscle and bone. So instead of using one thing, you're using something else to give you the final product.
So let's see. Okay, you get this idea and you realize that this is the product you want to build. How do you go from that idea to actually building it? Do you just drive into Haryana, stop at a farm and just pick up the material? Take us through that journey.
So obviously there is a lot more to be done. Picking up just farmers from the farm is it's not as easy. Clearly, it's not as easy as that. So obviously it requires infrastructure. It requires manufacturing, setups. It requires factories. It requires workers. It requires a large ecosystem to sort of come together. The initial R&D on what it binds with, what the agricultural waste binds with, because while it is same lignocellulosic biomass, there is similarities and differences. Engineered wood has a certain process that has been followed over the last several decades. I mean, there was no engineered wood until like 60, 70 years ago, or maybe 80 years ago. There was no plywood. Everything was wood. Everything was a tree bark, which was being cut and shaved and made into furniture and stuff. Engineered wood, plywood came into existence in about 60, 70 years ago, right? And that also happened through a process of research. That also happened through a process of uh, inventing machines or designing equipment which can create that. Now, the same equipment also is required to convert agricultural waste, say, into engineered wood panels. The discovery happens, of course, when there was a lot of traveling through Haryana and Punjab to figure out where this is going to get manufactured, where the straw is going to come from, who's going to bring the straw, how is it going to get processed, how are we going to prototype, how are we going to pilot. That journey was long. That journey was more than a year and a half long to sort of discover the discovery phase of. Uh, the first phase was to discover what we wanted to do, when we knew what we wanted to do, how we wanted to do. Then the third question was where and how that's going to happen. The first phase was easier. It was all desk research. It was about talking to researchers, global conversations, people in America, people in Europe, people in Australia who are working on similar concepts or similar sort of product development for the last 15, 20 years, both academic researchers and professionals who are in this space. And so, yeah, I mean, the second phase became then figuring out the chemistry of it, figuring out how it is going to get done, what is going to be the input materials. Whether it's going to be rice straw, it's going to be wheat straw, it's going to be bagasse, it's going to be mustard. There is so many different varieties of agricultural waste that are available. And then a third question was how, I mean, where and when? That was the big question. Because doing research is easy, implementing that into a real life solution is something completely different. It's a different ballgame altogether. And that did require a lot of traveling through the rural, traveling through Haryana, traveling through Punjab, through the agricultural belt, figuring out what folks are doing with the material, where it is going, and who can process it. If not us, I mean, we didn't have the equipment when we started it. We still don't have a factory of our own. We still partner with a third party manufacturer who does the manufacturing for us. Finding them was a tough ask. It was a new product. It was something completely different to what folks have been doing. For them, it was just fodder or a waste that was going to get burnt. Now there was a completely different use case for it, which was going to come to a factory. It was going to get processed. It was going to make engineered wood products. So that required a bit of running around. That required a bit of convincing. That required meeting a lot of people in this space who were very, very dismissive of the intent and the idea in the beginning stages, were completely unsure of the chemistry that we were trying to build behind it, who were absolutely not sure of the process that we were trying to sort of change in their setups. So it sort of took a long time to sort of get those things in order. Yeah.
Can you take us into those conversations? What did let's go one by one, the farmers who were giving you this material, what were their concerns? And even the factory workers, what were their concerns?
So, I mean, when you look at the rural communities, I mean, who work with agriculture, who are the farmers, who are the agricultural backbone of the country, for them it was a good intent. They're like, this is a great intent if we can make wood from it, but how are you going to make it? We are happy to give you the raw material. The raw material is available in abundance. In fact, it is available in so much abundance that you can't imagine. I know we all talk about the urban solid waste in the country, the landfills, the municipal solid waste that exists in the country. We generate India annually we generate about 60 to 70 million tons of urban solid waste, which is our landfills, which is the garbage that you see on every nook and corner in the cities, every big city. It's the plastic that is throwing around, it's the construction debris that's lying around. When you look at agricultural waste, it is 8 to 10 times of that. That is how much we generate. Now, the numbers are staggering. When you look at the agricultural waste that is burnt in the country, it is nearly 80% of the emissions that come out of all vehicles in the country annually. And that is the level of emissions that are generated by burning agricultural waste. There is a reason why Delhi goes grey, that why North India goes grey, why you can't see the sun. It's not a firework. It's not a one-day firework that creates that gray cloud over North India. It is a lot of burning that happened that needs to take place to get areas as large as all of North India, from Punjab all the way to Bihar and West Bengal. Now, in fact, all through the Indo-Gangetic plains, we have this entire issue, and it's not just limited to Delhi. It starts in it literally in Pakistan, and it ends literally in Bangladesh. It spreads to the northwest of the country, to the eastern perimeter of the country.
This is where I'm struggling a bit because it appears to me like the perfect solution. Take all this material that's making our skies go gray and turn it into infrastructure. It seems to me like the industry isn't moving fast enough, at least as a spectator. What is your reading as someone involved?
That's how I got into it. I mean, the industry has a lot of inertia. The construction industry has probably the biggest amount of inertia in India. It's a very, very conservative industry. It does things which are tried and tested. India is a difficult market. India, everyone wants everything to last for a lifetime. India expects a lot of durability. India expects a lot of low price with super high durability for something that will last a lifetime. So there are obviously established products, established brands who've built brand equity around what they do. And it's very difficult to change from that. I mean, when you look at furniture as well, furniture is conventionally, traditionally handed down from generation to generations. When you look at old furniture, you probably have had your parents, furniture that you've had from your parents. Parents have got it from your grandparents. They've probably got it from their previous generation as well. And it's very, very personal. And people want it to last for a lifetime. People really want it to last for 30, 40, 50, even 100 years. I mean, there's furniture which is very, very old in some places, and that's a difficult one to sort of crack. When you do a new product, when you start with a new sort of disrupting product of sorts into the industry, it's seen with a lot of skepticism when it lasts the lifetime that we're looking for, and it is made with waste. India is also growing very rapidly. We're a very, very aspirational society. We look at flashy things. We look at the West. We look at developed countries as inspirations, as aspirations, as what people want to do. And when you bring up the topic that this is a product that is made from waste, waste is always is always down. Yeah, it's always lower in the category of how well the product will perform, or whether it's premium or not, whether it's upmarket or not. We all want to do, wear flashy clothes and get into a car which is more expensive, buy a bigger house, and that's the aspiration, right? Buy a better laptop, buy a better phone. From smallest things to the largest things in life, we're looking at what is the best way, and what is the more flashy item, which creates a brand or which creates a status symbol, right? But anything that comes out of waste is generally not a category of product that sort of defines your aspirations well, or helps you get onto that high wheel, the high ground that you're looking for. So that's a big challenge. I mean, take conventional products are very well established in the industry, and at the same time, the adoption rates are dependent on how the market looks at such a product. The market obviously looks at products which are, if you're untested, untried product, which hasn't lasted. Which, I mean, we're a 1 year old, 2 year old company. A product is 1 year old. The company is 2 years old. But yeah, when you look at comparative people, the first question is it going to last like a normal furniture? Is it going to last like the products that we are currently used to doing? No matter how many sort of warranties and guarantees we give with the product, like we don't believe it, right? And also the second part is the straw is supposed to be burning. I mean, we have within our team, or one of the key things that we say is this is a product that was meant to burn. Now it's built to last. So the origin story of the product is important to us. It is in building a narrative, it is important, but when you look at adoption rates, it becomes a little difficult to sort of get that into the minds of people.
Yeah, so at an industry level, there is work to be done in both the manufacturing side in terms of convincing factories to take such work and on the consumption side, perhaps more so on the consumption side, on convincing users.
I mean, that's the majority of the work. I think once you figure out the process and the chemistry of what you want to do, then it's about adoption. It's about how the market responds to it. It's about convincing the market, convincing the consumers to start using the materials, start adopting it, start paying for it a little bit, so that there is that drive to increase adoption rates. Once there is, I mean, and that is the biggest motivation when you start any enterprise and you're doing any new product. The simplest motivation is how much consumption is happening, and that drives them. If you're working in a current one factory which there's say X pieces of X amount of straw being upcycled, the moment you hit full scale on that factory, you're going to be needing another factory. And looking at how well this current setup performs, there'll be more setup that'll be coming up depending on how the consumption sort of takes off in these spaces, right? You scale up production according to how the market responds to the demand.
I've heard this as a broader argument for sustainability products in general, perhaps in a market like India. Is the motivation of consumers, at least this idea of, oh, I want to buy a sustainable product? I'd assume that the market for that kind of a product is much lower. I'm guessing people's primary motivation is cost savings, durability, and things along those lines.
I want you to just look at the economic strata in India. What percentage of India pays taxes? First of all,
Like a
right?
small, maybe a single digit percentage, I'd assume.
It's a single digit percentage, 2, 3%, 4% roughly of the country pays taxes. When you look at a urban market, and this is primarily in the urban markets, right? Now, within that segment also, there is a even smaller segment of market which understands sustainability. People who pay taxes are people, obviously, like I said, I think the economic strata understanding is important, and how that sort of drives aspiration, how that drives growth, how that drives adoption. And when you look at how many people understand what's happening to the world in terms of climate change, what is the need for sustainability, and who's willing to buy a sustainable product, I think it gets even smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. Single digits pay taxes, single digits understand what's happening global warming, single digits understand what sustainable materials can do, and a single digit of that eventually ends up buying a product. And that makes the market very, very narrow. But it's still a very large market. I mean, given India is 1.4 billion people, that market is still fairly large. It's not a small market by any terms. It's still a it's a bigger market than most countries, even then, right? So that is where it is. I think the market is small for sustainable products right now, but it's picking up. It'll pick up. So which is what sort of we try to do a little differently. We try to make the product more desirable. We try to do sort of end use products or value added products with our material, which bring out what the products can do, not leaving it to the carpenter to finally decide what's going to happen to the product. We do the value addition ourselves. And that helps us gain more trust with the customer. That helps us gain more like brand equity. Like I said, make a prettier looking value added product from it. And that gets sold rather than just the wood, just the panel that we made.
So, is there a B2C play or rather B2C, something with a consumer in mind as opposed to a business? Is there a play for that with Biome Build?
There is to a certain extent, but not immediately. While we work with B2B right now, but we work on end products. So while we make a panel product, like a plywood product, but what we sell is tables. What we sell is shelves, and we sell them in bulk to schools and universities. We sell them to institutional buyers. We do it in retail market. While we do sell the panels as well, but our primary product positioning or the company's positioning is mostly around furniture, that we do furniture as well. We do furniture with an engineered panel, which is made by crop residue, and we own the full stack. From sourcing the crop residue to bringing a table to your space, it's all us. There's nobody else involved in the thing. We are responsible from the origin of the material to getting it down to where you are. So that story is very well sort of established now.
I'd assume something like this is the kind of business governments would want, right? This is ideally you're taking something that's damaging a very significant part of the country and you're turning it into a product. What sort of support do you receive? Are there subsidies? Are there incentives, tax incentives?
So we've got some support. I mean, we've got decent support from the government in the first year itself. I mean, first thing was the products that we make has a 13% GST rebate. So when you buy plywood, it's at 18% GST. We are liable to pay 5% GST. Our products attract 5% GST. So that's the first and foremost. That's the biggest incentive that the government can give. It can reduce the GST. It can waive off some of the GST that is applicable. Second, when we started off in this in the journey, we got support, financial support from the government as part of pre-seed funding or just seed funding, whatever you call it. We got grants, we got debt capital, interest rate debt from the government to sort of do the initial R&D, do the initial product development, do the initial prototyping. So that financial support also came. And we have continued engagement with some of the government departments to sort of see how they can help us in bringing more visibility to the product to help us find more markets and stuff. So that continues to keep happening. Avail more grants, avail more funding opportunities. There are a lot of government larger funding opportunities as well. Of course, pre-seed, seed funding, typical government programs, 10 lakh, 15 lakh, 20 lakh, 30 lakh rupees are some sort of ranges that the initial pre-seed funding typically sits in. But yeah, there are larger funding schemes which are available once you want to scale up a product that you've developed. So we'll probably be exploring that as well in some time. I mean, that's more on the tech side. It's subsidized debt, interest rate subvention is significant in some of these schemes. And that helps. So all of these things are there. When the government can do structural changes, and that's the government's kind of objective here, that to create an ecosystem where, I mean, structurally it should be viable. Making it for one company, one institute is not what the government can do. Government can do things for a larger ecosystem. So the GST rebate is part of that, offering subsidized loan to industries or to products like ours or to similar things across the country, circular economy, waste management. There is interest subvention that is available for uh, some of these projects that are there, and we fall into one of those categories. So those are the kind of structural benefits that the government has sort of created uh, for different stages, for different sort of applications, for different parts of what you want to build.
I want you to judge my understanding of the market. Right now, as I understand it, India and sustainability angled ventures like this are, at least if you want to come up, you do need to rely on a structural like government framework in order to thrive. It's not as if the market has fully reached a place where uh, VCs and investors are pouring enough into this. Maybe I might be wrong, but how reliant do you think sustainability ventures are on grants and subsidies and rebates, so to speak?
Very, very. I mean, I think all sustainability or circular economy, everything relies on grant, especially in the product side, especially physical product side, not a software product side. But anybody who's doing a physical product, hardware, in this space relies very, very heavily on government grants right now. There are a lot of government schemes which are available, but that's nearly not enough. A lot of companies do look at the first few years as progress. They end up getting grants, they end up getting government support, they end up getting prototyping grants and funding from the government, but it becomes difficult to scale thereafter. Because you can build a product, you can do the initial market outreach with the government funds, but it sort of stops there. Beyond that, there is very limited that you can do unless you're ready to scale industrially. So there is a bridge, there is a gap between seed and what you would call a debt-based large-scale infrastructure funding. There is a major gap between that. So finding the product and finding real scale, there's an intermediate stage called getting product market fit, which we call the valley of death as well in a lot of places, right? Bridging that is where the capital is mostly needed. That is the side of funding that is currently difficult to get. Government doesn't have that. Government doesn't offer that funding. VCs are very, very not very sort of bullish on the sector right now. They haven't seen very good, very large companies coming out of it. Unicorns coming out of it is even going to be rare. Most of VCs fund unicorns. VCs fund on the opportunity of a unicorn and a unicorn in less than 10 years. That's that's what they look at. If you create, are you going to be able to create that much value within 10 years' time? The answer is likely no, because it's a physical product. It is a hardware product. It is dependent on manufacturing scale. It is dependent on continuous capital investment. It is dependent on how much production capability you have. Without a production I mean, you will always get limited by production capacity that you have in a manufacturing sort of a business, and that's where VCs have largely stayed away. Some obviously some companies have found scale, some companies have found that model. Some VCs have found that model workable. There is patient capital. Some are willing to take bets for 15 years and 20 years in terms of staying invested in a company. But that's far and few. It's very, very limited compared to how VC money flows into the industry, into say a D2C brand or a software product or a or a quick delivery sort of a thing. Everything is which all of that is related to a mostly around software, but mostly around physical in infrastructure, not infrastructure projects. Infrastructure projects take time to develop, and that's where the gap is right now. It's the middle part. The initial part is available by the government. The latter part is also available through debt, but the middle part is where it's missing right now.
What about other economies? As I understand it, Europe is a economy where at least this is more mainstream, so to speak. What is your global reading of just a sustainability angled market?
Europe is definitely much way ahead of India. I think the adoption rate, people are more aware. There is more information. There is more awareness. There is more adoption. There's risk-taking appetite. There is more intent, I would say, both at the government level and at the individual level in the European markets for adoption of newer products to let's say even to try out. I mean, obviously that also depends on your spending capacity. That also depends on how much money you have and whether that's how much dent it's gonna make. If I throw do something for 1,000 rupees in India and it didn't work, it'll hurt most people, right? But if you did that to Europe, it will not hurt most people. Because the spending capacity is much bigger, is much better. Right? And that sort of matters. I mean, it's a developed economy, and that will always be the case in a developed economy.
What about just consumer demand? You're saying that consumers themselves, I'm talking about, let's say it's a
Mm.
D2C venture, consumer demand is there in Europe, is what I've understood.
Consumer demand is definitely higher as a percentage of total population that understands that wants to buy something sustainable. That is much higher in Europe. I mean, the percentage might be very, very low in India, but that percentage is still a good number.
Simply because of the aggregate, like the amount of
Simply
people
because of the
here in the
scale at
country.
that India works at.
So from everything I've heard, it really sounds like India currently has a customer acquisition problem. I don't know if innovation is really where the bottleneck is. It seems like customer acquisition is where the bottleneck is.
There are two, three structural problems in India. Obviously, customer acquisition is the biggest challenge in India. How many brands have you seen over the last 10 years come, make a lot of noise, do a lot of initial business, and then disappear into thin air? That happens on an everyday basis. There are brands which get built, the brands which get funded, the brands which create a lot of sort of brand equity for the first couple of years, first 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and it suddenly disappears. And it's just nowhere to be seen after that. We've seen with so many products, so many software products, physical products, they've created that initial demand, the initial capability. They've shown the initial intent. The market has shown initial acceptance, or at least some level of acceptance, but they're not able to scale. And eventually, VC money or good money or a free flowing money ends at some point of time when the investors also see that there is not enough return that's coming out of it, and it dries up. And the moment it dries up, it immediately sort of disappears into thin air. And that's happened a lot in India I mean, that happens across the world. I mean, it's not just India specific. That happens everywhere. That's how it typically works. Uh, when you look at funding opportunities, I think Europe definitely has better, because the general population has a better understanding of what they want to do, on how conscious they are in terms of understanding global warming, climate change, what impacts does it have, the long-term impact. There is better understanding in the consumer and in the investor as well. There is a lot more patient capital available. There's a lot more sovereign grants that are available. There's a lot more for sovereign R&D that happens where you can get support. India struggles with R&D so much. India struggles with product development so much. People may have great ideas, but they don't have labs to tinker around with. They don't have the infrastructure which is required to build something from theory to prototype in a lab, that infrastructure is not available in India, and the research funding is abysmal when it comes to India, and that's where it lacks the most. That's where the product development cycles really die out in India, at least in the physical products which are innovative, which have something new to offer, which have some new science behind them, somebody has tinkered with something and they want to play with it. I think we struggle to offer enough infrastructure and enough sort of support academically, research wise, uh, capital wise as well, compared to what some of the developed countries are sort of offer.
How is this going to change in 10 years? 10 years from now, let's say 2036, when we record another episode, then what will be the different things you'll be telling me?
Well, I can say for myself, I don't think I can say anything from the government perspective, but I really wish our budgets on education and R&D increase from where we are. We're one of the lowest spending countries on education as part of our GDPs. And that is where the sad part is. And that's where it really needs to get built up structurally from the foundation. If we're not spending enough money at the foundation level of what we're teaching the next generation, how much money we're spending on it, how much budgets there are, people, to have that curiosity, to have that thought process, to think more, study better understand things, have better knowledge of things. Be mostly STEM when you look at say technology advancements. We need to create more engineers. We need to create better engineers. We need to create more engineers. We need to create better understanding of science, better understanding of technology, how it works, and for them to then play with it, create better infrastructure facilities, better research labs, and stuff for people to go and physically try out what they're thinking, try out and play with the chemistry, play with the physics of it, play with the mechanics of things. And that's where it lacks big time in India, both in terms of how the government funds it, how the private sector doesn't do anything. Private sector is really, really sad when it comes to research and development. Maybe in a couple of industries, life sciences, pharmaceuticals, has some research going on. But other than that, there is very limited product research that happens in India. India is more of a adoption of what the West has done country rather than in-house R&D, in-house product development, in-house innovation. Limited, it's still there. I wouldn't want to take away from people who've done indigenous product development in India, but it's mostly about applying R&D that's happened around the world. There are patents sitting in India. I mean, we are very low in how many patents we sort of file as a country compared to some of the other countries. We're very poor in from a patent, from a lab based science, to converting that into a physical prototype, to converting that into a physical product or from mass produced product. There is there's a lot of effort that goes into all three processes, all three steps. Just having enough infrastructure to do something in the lab, in as a basic chemistry, basic physical product development, or basic just just a small little prototype, to a functional prototype, to getting into mass scale production. It's a very long journey, and we struggle to find resources. And when I say resources, it's a combination of capital, it's a combination of research infrastructure, and it's a combination of skill that is there. Uh, or it's required at a structural level to build, to come to that level where people have better understanding, people explore these segments into innovation, build more products, create more products on the market. The market should understand what has gone into doing it and what value it brings to the ecosystem. I think there's a long way to go. I think we'll still be sitting here in 10 years, and I don't want to sound pessimistic, but we'll be having a similar conversation in 10 years.
So then what would you advise someone who wants to build in this space? I think that this is at least a growing space that people are interested in. What would you advise them? I mean, it doesn't have to be India specific, but what advice would you give them to try and build within this space?
I don't have an advice. I think it's a lot of hustle. You have to figure out. I think when you look at government support, sector is almost zero. Like only in a few places that is there. Government support is there. It's very limited and it's fairly bureaucratic at times. Uh, it's difficult. It is very difficult to break into this space of innovation in the country, especially when it comes to hardware and physical prototypes and physical products. A lot of companies which do physical products do get manufactured from China or some other country and bring it here because the manufacturing capability is there, the research capability is there. India doesn't have that prototyping capability, right? I mean, most D2C brands, I mean, if you look at physical product, I'm not talking sustainable products right now. D2C brands which are physical product based, the headphone that you're wearing, perhaps, both, and half of them, or at least maybe now, they've brought manufacturing to India. In the initial stages, when they were trying to get a product market fit, most of the products got imported from China. I mean, large D2C brands, they do manufacturing in China. That scale manufacturing at a quality does not happen in India. You still have to get it done from outside the country. Furniture, we don't have that capability in India. We import so much furniture from China and Vietnam. It's not funny. Like, we don't have that scale manufacturing capability in some of these places, in some of these items. I know everyone will say, no, we're now making Apple phones in India and we're making cars and we export automobiles. Yes, we do. We do a lot of tech. In some sectors we do, but not across sectors. Right? And not in developing sectors. India has a great demand for automobiles, two-wheelers, cars and everything. So there is a demand which is driving manufacturing capability here in this. For the niche sectors or the growing sectors, which are at a nascent state, it's really, really difficult at this stage.
Okay, interesting. I guess I hope that people see this as a problem to solve. I mean, change makers at whatever level of government and even private sector. I have three rather personal questions that I wanted to end on. Not really personal, but just slightly off from Biome Build. While I was doing my research, I saw that you worked with Acacia. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Which is like a more SaaS based business. Just quickly, just take us into what that was like and what that taught you.
So Acacia was my first it was a very new for me. Obviously, it was in the sector, but it was software. It was SaaS, which I had never done before.
But what is it like? If you had to explain it, well, how do you explain
so
it?
Acacia built a product for real estate companies to measure their carbon footprint and work on strategies to reduce the carbon footprint. So a have set the baseline and then um, recommendations or solutions on how that carbon footprint can sort of come down, your greenhouse gas emissions, essentially. What is it that they are right now as is and how they sort of come down? How can you bring them down? Well, that's what Acacia did as a product that we were trying to make, that we built rather.
What did it teach you as compared to a more physical product based business that you're now operating in? What was a SaaS based life, and how is that different from, say, a product based life that you're living now?
SaaS-based life is a very office-based life, which currently it is not. So that's a big difference. Most of the work is happening on a computer, where for now it's physical, it's out there, it's out there in the market. You're making furniture, whether you're making an engineered panel or you're making furniture, you're out there in the factory, you're in somewhere. So that's the big difference. Is a lot more physical space that is required to do what we do now compared to what we did at Acacia.
Last two questions. So, one other rather offbeat topic that I came about when I was researching for this podcast. You happen to be a marathon runner, and you're also now getting into triathlons, if I'm right.
I've done a bit of triathlon as well in the past. Yeah, I've been a marathon runner in a past life. Not kept up with it for the last 4 or 5 years, but yes.
How do you think that affects your thinking? And I'm sure on some level, at least all the runners I've come about, I've done one half marathon. That's the extent that I've run. And I believe it has some psychological effect. And so I'd love for you to speak to how that might have affected your life.
I think running has many benefits. Of course, it'll keep you fit. That's one part of it. But it really helps you, at least really help me, be my own sounding board when you're running. If you're running a marathon, which is 3 4 hours at least, I mean, unless you're an elite athlete and you're running in 2.5 3 hours, but 3 4 5 hours, if you're on the road all by yourself, your music will run out of battery. And then when you're left with just yourself and your thoughts, I think you are your best sounding board. So it does help put a lot of thoughts into perspective. Whenever you do individual sport, I mean, these days I swim. I swim a lot these days. I've had some injuries over the last couple of years, which is why the running sort of stopped, and now it's swimming. But when I'm in the pool, even then even then the mind is working, and it's just you and your thoughts, because there is no phone at that time, there is no distraction, there's nobody knocking on the door, there is no cook to take care of, there is no family to sort of attend to at that time, there is no phone calls coming from emergency phone calls from work or the factory. You're just there, you're just disconnected from the world, and you're just with yourself. And I think that is very, very meditative in the way you can be with yourself, and you can cut out the noise and sort of make better plans in some ways, or bring your thoughts out better, talk to yourself a lot more, give yourself a lot more perspective as to a where did things start, where have they come. I'd have that conversation. What has happened well, what has not happened well, what is the next step. All of that happens very well when you're running. I mean, obviously your hormones are working well. You're having the happy hormones and stuff. That helps in sort of getting those thoughts together. Uh, I think physical activity is very, very important, because a lot of early stage founders, when they get involved in building businesses, they don't take care of health. Even I did. I mean, I'm one of those. In the first couple of years, I didn't. I had really sort of deteriorated in terms of health, but now I'm sort of getting back into it, and it really helps a lot. I make sure I do that swim every day, if not something else. There is a physical activity that is required, where you can be with your thoughts, where there is no distraction, where there is no phone ringing, where there is no nobody sort of calling you out here, there, and from everywhere, not looking at the phone.
I have a closing tradition on this podcast where I ask every guest this question, which is, if you had access to billboards across the world for just one day, what message would you put up there?
What message would I put up there? Oh, that's a difficult one. I mean, from the company perspective, I'll say kill less trees. But I mean, deforestation is really, really important. Attacking deforestation is super important. I mean, like I said earlier, trees are some of the most, like, one of the rarest resources that is available in the universe. We're gonna run out of them very soon. They take care of so much on the planet, controlling weather, controlling managing biodiversity, floodplain protection, air quality, just the carbon sequestration by itself. They are they're the soul of the planet. And I think the moment we stop exploiting that resource, I think we'll have a better life. I think that's what's happening everywhere in the world right now. When you look at climate change, I see it as an imbalance that is there. So while obviously we're looking at greenhouse gas emissions going up, we're also seeing the capability going down. So in terms of how much green cover there is, how much carbon sequestration that's happening there. And greenhouse gas is not just about temperature rising. If there was just temperature rise and enough rainfall, if there was enough biodiversity, it'll manage itself. But that is also going down, and that's the sad part of it. The imbalance is growing, and on both sides. Right? Whether the balancing factor, which is our green cover, which is our mangrove, which is our rainforest, we're losing them. That's going down at that. And then obviously the greenhouse gas is going up, the temperature is rising, weather patterns changing. Forests control so much of our weather patterns right now. Right? They create rainfall. They're the source of rainfall in most places. That's where transpiration happens. That's where species live there. And if half of the flooding wouldn't happen if we hadn't cut so much trees that are there. If Mumbai didn't cut down mangroves, there probably wouldn't be so much flooding in Mumbai right now. If we didn't concretize so much, obviously we have to concretize somewhere, but it has to be a better plan. But yes, I mean, I think the resources are finite. The resources are super critical to way we live our lives, and the loss that happens just because of deforestation is always uncounted for or unaccounted for. The day we start accounting for how much we've lost because of cutting down trees, I think we will realize that it's a far bigger challenge than what we've. I mean, has a much bigger impact on the current events that are happening.
Sumit, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for listening. Before you go, I have 3 small requests to ask you. If you enjoy listening to the episode, then please subscribe. Second, please share this with someone who you think will find it valuable. You see, a lot of effort and time goes into creating these podcasts. And so by sharing it, you'll help me reach new audiences, and that'll help keep the show alive. Third, please tell me your thoughts. You can reach out to me on social media, on email, and so on, and tell me what you enjoyed, what you didn't like, and new guests and episodes that you'd like to have discussed on the podcast. Again, thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.